All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. This is the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. And let's start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Anita, would you like to lead us tonight?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, thank you. So our first order of business, as usual, is open forum and announcements. I just have one announcement. I'd like to remind everyone that the town will be having its September 11th memorial service this week on September 11th. It will be in the courtyard in front of the police station and old fire station. And it will start at approximately 9:55, and everybody is obviously welcome to attend and to join us. Anybody from the board have anything? Tom?
Just a reminder, we're not talking about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee tonight. We are looking for applicants to join. We've got a great group that have already filled out applications, but if you're interested in participating in this important group, please take the opportunity to fill out an application. We're hoping in our next meeting to actually impanel the committee. So if you are interested, please take a look, and you can find those forms. If you Google Citizen Activity Form Westford, you'll find it. You can fill it out. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anybody else from the board? Mark.
So just furtherance to Tom. So we did see an email from Samantha today that we do have a lot of applicants for the committee already, but I think only 2 of the 19 it actually addressed the questions that we asked to include. So I think we need to make sure that everybody understands they can't be considered unless the questions are answered. So if you've sent it in but haven't answered the questions that were asked, please do so before the next meeting.
Okay. Anybody else from the board? Anita?
Yeah, I was able to attend the first round of tours for the schools last week, and I just wanted to say thanks to all the administrators and the teachers who are really busy setting up all the schools for opening. And I just wanted to really give a shout out because I really appreciate all the energy and hard work that you're putting into it.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, I know that Valerie Young has something for open forum. So if you can unmute Valerie, whenever you're ready.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. So thank you so much for allowing me a moment to speak. As a member of the school committee, I've heard a lot of concerns from working families about the upcoming school schedule. For those who don't know, schools will open with a full week of in-person early release school days, alternating with a full week of online learning at home. This is a significant increase in the amount of time that working families will require childcare assistance. So I've been working with the Council of Aging, Jennifer and Allison, to publicize their existing COVID-19 Relief Assistance Fund. We believe that this can be a resource to families who may experience a financial hardship with the increased expense of childcare. In addition, there's a lot of other concerns with families may be struggling with a loss of income due to COVID-19, and there's a lot of questions remaining about the future of eviction and foreclosure situations. So I just wanted to take this moment to kind of publicize that. This account relies on donations, so we are hoping to share far and wide and increase its fundraising levels and publicity. I'll be sharing some information in local Facebook groups, and I believe, I've been sending it around so it can be included in some upcoming town and school communications.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm wondering, Jody, if we could get that information up on the town website as well. people are looking for it, and a link to where they can go. Great, thank you. Okay, with that, we move to our 7:05 p.m. item, which is an update from our chief and deputy chief of police on police department activities and procedures over, I guess, the last 6 to 8 weeks, and just where what our current procedures and processes are, and what is currently being explored moving forward. So Chief McEnany and Deputy Chief Chambers, first of all, thank you for joining us tonight. We certainly appreciate it. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys now to give us an update.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to just take this opportunity to kind of highlight some of the things that we've accomplished this year. We've since in February, we began the accreditation process. Accreditation process is a mass process in Massachusetts for police departments that choose to participate in the process. It's a review of policies and procedures, and it's an independent review. Outside agencies come in and do the review along with the accreditation commission, and they go over our policies and procedures and rules and regulations, and make sure that we have the best practices in play. It consists of two major components: establish a professional standards for policing agencies, and the assessment process, again, to assure that we're using best practices. We received our accreditation inspection in February, and we were notified in June of this year that we successfully completed this process. That process usually, like I said, it's been since 2005, we've maintained this. It is based on the national CALIA accreditation standards on best practices. So we're up to date with all of that. And we had over 326 standards are reviewed by the inspectors, and we exceeded the standards for accreditation by 344 standards. So it took a period of over 3 days to have this independent body come in and review our procedures and policies. So we're very proud of that accomplishment. We've also did a review of our policies and procedures with all of our officers. In light of what's been going on, we've had policies with all officers that we reviewed on handling the mentally ill, sexual harassment. We also participated in the sexual harassment training with the town. All town staff went through that. Anti-harassment, racial and gender profiling, bias-based policing. We also went over all of this information with all of our roll calls, bias crimes, and our typical use of training that we've been doing specifically with use of force, with a heavy emphasis on de-escalation training. I'm going to turn it over to Mark, who is going to go over some of the other things that we've done specifically with the mental health initiatives that we've been doing. So, Mark.
Thank you, Chief. So when we attended that forum at the beginning of July, we did a series of questions that were submitted and printed out for us to answer after the fact. And one of the common themes that we saw was questions about how we deal with mental health, de-escalation, and whether or not we participate in different kind of collaboratives. And there was just some publication over the past few weeks about an organization between the Chelmsford Police Department, Lowell Police Department, Tingsboro Police Department, and they participate in extra like referral counseling for mental illness and substance abuse. And the question had come up whether or not we as Westford PD participate in something similar. And I'd like to just report that we do. I know that we've mentioned this several times over the different interactions that we've had on these webinars. We do participate in the Community Outreach Initiative Network, the COIN program, which is a collaboration of the 10 towns and police departments that pretty much work through the Air District Court for some pre-trial, pre-arraignment collaboration. It's generally used for someone that's experiencing a mental health crisis or substance abuse disorder or co-abuse or co-occurring disorders. We refer them to different services of counselors, and they're referred for follow-up and treatment before they enter into the criminal justice system. So we participate in that program with Ashby, Ayr, Boxborough, Dunstable, Groton, Littleton, Pepperell, Shirley, Townsend, and of course Westford. So one of the recommendations from that COIN group is they look at where gaps in services may occur for mental health, mental illness and substance abuse disorder treatments. I participated in a sequential intercept mapping workshop over in Groton over the winter, and we were partnering with the COIN program. I had received some sponsorship from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the NAMI organization, as well as the CIT, Critical Incident Team International, was going to be doing some training for us. And essentially what our goal is going to be coming out of this is that eventually we would like to have 20% of our officers and our command staff trained as critical incident team members. And what that does is it helps us to recognize people that are in crisis, whether it's mental health or substance abuse crisis, and the different options that you have to deal with individuals that are experiencing those crises and how to identify them. Because depending on the type of crisis, sometimes is how you want to approach that individual. So that was all put off because of the coronavirus in the beginning of March. So we're still looking forward to getting that training underway. But it is something that we will be participating in. We also we have sent several of our officers to mental health first aid for first responders. So we look forward to continuing that collaboration with the COIN program and NAMI. On top of that, we also do additional trainings for our officers through the FBI LEADA. FBI LEADA is a law enforcement executive training organization that provides supervisory and leadership training. The very first step is a week-long program, which generally as the first step for frontline supervisors. That's the Supervisory Leadership Academy. There's an Executive Leadership Academy and a Command Staff Leadership Academy that we have been sending all of our officers to, and we've been taking advantage of that opportunity through the Mass Police Training Committee, sorry. So we try to take advantage of all these different trainings that we can to be able to address a broad variety of incidents and training opportunities that come across our desks. One other thing that we have done since our last meeting on the beginning of July, I did participate in a Zoom meeting with some members of the Westford Coalition for Change organization and met with Jenny Kravitz, who was one of the student advisors. Had a very productive meeting. I had an opportunity to explain some of the policies and procedures of the Westford Police Department, answer some questions and receive some feedback from them. And we've had some interesting opportunities that we may be able to take advantage of through the ACLU and other training opportunities to bring back to here to WPD. Chief?
Okay, some of the actions that we've taken since the prior to the forum, we've posted on our website the mission statement, the use of force policies, the reporting of use of force policies, racial gender profiling policies, the use of electronic weapon procedures. Again, like I said, we did the use of force. We did the de-escalation emphasis. We also included, and we were probably one of the first departments in the area to also push out a duty to intervene portion of our policies for officers that have a duty to intervene. There is a restriction on chokeholds. Massachusetts never taught chokeholds, but we incorporated that restriction within our policies. As Tom knows, we actually looked at some of the data-driven information that the state provides on motor vehicle stops. We had requested this information from the state back in June. We still have not received it yet. So we're still waiting to look at some of that data and to use that and to jump off from that point. We also created a new policy, and this was right after the forum on discussions, because some of the questions relative to the forum that was kind of kicked about was, what do you do when you receive a call for service that may be racial or bias motivated? And we instituted a policy for our dispatchers to actually drill down on some of those calls, to ask further questions. And it also allows the dispatcher to notify the supervisor before a cruiser is sent there. Because just because somebody, they call up and they say it's suspicious in nature, we want to drill down and get some more information on that before an officer is dispatched. So we do, it has been, that policy was issued in July. We also took and posted our civilian complaint forms online, our anonymous tip information, where that information goes directly to the deputy chief that follows up on it. Mark made mention that he spoke with the student advisory group, Westford for Change. We followed up on some of the anonymous complaints that we received. And I do want to point out that, during the forum, there was an incident that was described that somebody who was working in town that got stopped 6 or 7 times, and then they actually had to quit their job. We did drill down on that piece of information. We did confirm that the officers were familiar with an individual that fit that fact pattern. And what we had learned was the individual did not have a license. So he repeatedly was driving through our town, making deliveries without a license. And it's very easy to check somebody's license status. Once somebody is cited for that, it's logged in the registry, so you can see how many times that has happened. But I made that statement, maybe he was a bad driver, but in Massachusetts, you absolutely need a license to drive on our streets. And my officers wouldn't be doing their jobs if they were not stopping somebody that they know was operating on the streets without a license. And I just want to kind of wrap this up. Since that forum, we've received no new complaints. We received 0 official complaints on racial profiling. We received 0 complaints on excessive force. And I know this was an issue about just recently about officer-involved shootings throughout the country. We haven't had an officer-involved shooting since 1973, so 47 years ago. Was the last time a Westford police officer was involved in a police shooting. So that's just an update of some of the things that we've been working on, just to give you a quick update on what we've been busy on. So with that, I'll open up to some questions from the board if you have any.
Thank you very much, both of you. We really appreciate it. Clearly, you and our police department have been busy and have been listening to the community and taking what they have said and what you've heard to heart in terms of looking at your own department and moving forward with best practices. And we certainly appreciate that. Questions or comments from the board? Sure, Mark.
Yeah, so I just want to expand a little bit on what Andrea said. First of all, thank you to not only both of you, but your entire department. I think there's so little communication that happens about the goodness and the positive efforts that certain departments are trying to make in the environment in which we live today. And unfortunately, there's 44 people watching this live right now, as well as whoever happens to be on Westford Cat. Everybody should understand, and we should be doing a much better job enlightening the community, our community, not out west, not in the New York, not in the Midwest, but in our town of Westford, the things that you are doing to put people at peace, that you are making whatever necessary changes there were and continuing to educate your department on the positive things that are going on. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. I want to say thank you to you and your entire staff. The second part is, we were made aware of a hate incident related to your department. And I just want to say, I am tired of hate. Hate is hate, irrespective of whether it's towards any type of individual, any human at all. And of course, it was not called out like it would have been had it been somewhere else. And I just want to recognize you all for the fact that we recognize that it was hate. We do not tolerate hate, and we are going to continue to do everything we possibly can to make sure that you and every other employee of this town who acts responsibly is recognized for acting in that way.
Other comments?
Thank you, Mark, for those comments.
Other questions? Tom?
I've heard both Chief and Deputy Chief say a number of times how important it is for you to have Westford be the kind of community that you have in your mind, where we treat people fairly. And I always find that compelling. I know you both have grown up here and believe strongly in supporting your neighbors and being as important part of the town as you are. I've worked with you, and many of us have, and I appreciate your engagement on this and your commitment to transparency. And I think that the vast majority of the community here, the whole community, I think, appreciates you, and I think most people are really happy with the engagement they've had with you. I also appreciate that you're open to the idea that we have ways to improve. So thank you for that. And maybe a question for you is if there are things that you'd like to be able to do. I know this is not an ideal budget environment for anybody. We've got a lot of challenges, but if there are things that you'd like to incorporate or ways that we could be supporting you better to help move the ball forward here on community engagement or other kinds of training, either tonight or in the future, I'd love to hear what those ideas are, because I know that you're thoughtful and working hard on this information, and I'd appreciate learning what you think we could be doing better to support you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. I really appreciate that. And we've been working with Jody on trying to make these improvements. Budgets are tight. We're dealing with the COVID situation, and the training right now is very hard to come by. A lot of it is being done remotely, and we're trying to just get our arms wrapped around this as well. And we're planning for the future, but we are always open to improvements. And we work very hard at that. And I must say, thank you very much. I would like to recognize the hard work that our officers do day in and day out. They're doing this. And as a whole, our whole community, I know it's one team, one effort, and that means the police department, the fire department, everybody works together on our side. So I think we have a good thing going. And to Mark's point, I'm glad that we're recognizing it, but this town works very hard at trying to get it right. And so thank you very much for recognizing it.
Anybody else from the board? Scott?
So I just want to acknowledge that for the past 4 or 5 months, you and your department have been living under a microscope, and I can't imagine that's much fun. So just want to say I appreciate the fact that you've maintained a positive attitude, an open attitude under what's been pretty trying conditions to be a law enforcement professional. I just want to think back to just before the the death of George Floyd, we had COVID in town. Most of us were sheltering in place, and our police and fire and highway were out there still doing their jobs in public, especially police and fire up close and personal with our residents. So you've been doing a tough job for a long time, and now under more difficult conditions than ever before, I think. So so thank you for being professional when sometimes our citizens aren't always professional towards you, and you know, we appreciate you being the professionals that you are.
Thank you very much, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Anita. Anita, you're last but not least. Okay, I just want to make that clear.
I hadn't like prepared anything, but I just wanted to let people know that I actually met with the chief and the deputy last week because I felt like I was only getting and reading one particular type of viewpoint, but I needed to understand the chief and deputy as people, as leaders of the police department, and just be able to understand them as people. And I needed them to understand who I am. And even though we kind of left the meeting with the understanding that we're not going to agree probably on a lot of different things, they're at least the foundation that we respect each other and understand that we're all coming from a genuine place of trying to improve and be better for, or like improve the community and just heal our town. And I really appreciate that the Westford Coalition for Change reached out to you, or you reached out to them and you had this meeting, because I think we need to have more of these conversations and more opportunities of learning each other and understanding where each person is coming from, because I think that's the best way to move towards change and improvement. And I just wanted to say thank you, because I know I took up a big chunk of their afternoon, and I really appreciate that. I felt like I was being listened to, and I went to that meeting wanting to listen to you. So I just really wanted to acknowledge that and appreciate that, or, you know, share that appreciation.
So
Thank you very much, Anita.
Tom?
I didn't mean to go twice. I also wanted, for members of the public, we are still working on full transparency on the questions asked in the forum. Those are on their way. We remember those. We're committed to getting those to you. And also, I know that we are, from talking to the chief and deputy chief, committed to reviewing our police data against the state data when we get the state to respond to us. The state has many challenges right now also, but we'll continue to look for that data and make sure when we have it, we go through it publicly so that we can, I think in Westford's case, transparency helps. The more we can do to look at the data and look at how we're doing relative to the data, I think that's a big win for everybody. So we're still on that.
So I think in some ways Anita said it best for all of us. It's what I said a couple of meetings ago. It's important that we all communicate with each other, talk with one another, listen to one another, respect one another, and the places where we're coming from and the jobs that we're all doing in this day and age, because, you know, everybody's doing the best they can. Everybody's working as hard as they can, you know, all of our town departments, the police, the fire. And at the end of the day, I think we're all committed to the same goal, which is to make Westford the best place that it can be for all of us here in the community. And that's what we're all working towards. And so I think if we all keep that in mind and talk and listen with one another, that we'll get there. And if, you know, people, as Tom said, are transparent and open, we'll get there, and we will make Westford the best place that it can be. So I want to thank everyone, the police, community members who have been invested in this, for working towards this goal, and for keeping and now hoping that the lines of communication are open in a respectful and a communicative way. So thank you all. There is one question that we have from the audience that is more is a little bit off topic, but I think it's important because it is an update for the community. If chief or deputy chief can answer it, and is there an update with respect to the hate crimes and the vandalism that occurred earlier this summer that you can share with the community at this point?
Like what I would say on that is under investigation. That's an active investigation. We have pursued many leads on this, and we're working with our partners on the state police and waiting for some results to come back from some evidence that was obtained. So again, that's an active investigation. That's not sitting on the shelf anywhere. We take that very serious, and that type of crime is repugnant, and we are going to investigate that to the fullest. And hopefully I have some good news to share with you soon, but we're in a waiting pattern right now.
Great. Thank you. All right. Thank you both very much. Thank you to our police department. Everybody be safe out there. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to our 7:25 p.m. item, which is a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. So Jody and Dan, I think you guys are going to update all of us on the fiscal year 21 financials. And then we're going to talk about special town meeting, which is going to be Saturday, October 17th. So Jody and Dan, whichever one of you is leading this, please go ahead.
All right, well, I'm going to just start with a high level. So we put a spreadsheet in your packets. And just to update you briefly, our new growth did appear to come in higher than we had projected. It has not been certified yet, but we're expecting to be in good shape there. The other changes I just wanted to highlight is we lowered our estimate for hotel and motel excise a little bit, and we're tracking that very carefully along with auto excise. Land management is looking at the licensing and permitting and tracking that, and we're continuing to fine-tune those projections. Recreation, we're going to talk about a little bit later today. Still kind of a moving target. I told you at your last meeting we were able to get $125,000 reduction for Blue Cross for this year, which was great, and another $70,000 for our employees. We restructured some jobs in town and bargained with the union, and that has achieved about $173,000 in savings. Christine Collins worked her magic and was able to reduce our debt service payments to the tune of about another $125,000. We are asking you later today to award the health insurance contract for this year to Blue Cross. We were able to negotiate a 4.9% increase and an 11.9% decrease at this point for our Medicare plan. And so that helped us with about a $92,000 reduction. So all in all, for fiscal year 21, we are looking at a deficit of about $213,000 right now, which, if you recall, we were in a little bit worse shape several months ago. We did not fund the fiscal year 20 snow and ice deficit at our annual, so we will be asking town meeting to fund that at 110. But it's, in terms of the operating expenses to the revenues, were down about $212,000 right now. We can fairly easily apply free cash at the upcoming town meeting to fill that gap. That is what we would recommend. And then the other two items that I just wanted to bring up is I still have an open position. These were two new hires that we have in this 21 budget. One was to fill a paramedic firefighter, and that was back in July, but we have not filled that yet, and that would cost about $47,000. And then we had budgeted to fill the patrol officer beginning January 1st. So the total of those two are included in this budget. It would not result in an additional deficit, but I wanted to at least bring that up and see if the board supported us moving forward, because it does take a period of time to fill those positions.
Okay. Yeah, Mark, and then Scott. Mark, you're muted.
Yeah, go on mute, Mark.
I'm coming. Sorry. So a couple of quick questions. after we apply right now the 322,000 of free cash, do we know what the free cash percentage is?
Dan?
So that's not certified yet, but we're estimating free cash coming in at about 3.3 million when it is eventually certified, hopefully by the end of the month. So we'll have about 3 million left to fund items at the special town meeting and the annual town meeting.
Okay, and then as a percentage of operating?
I'm sorry, Mark, the percentage of operating?
Yeah, so sorry, how we have the target of 5%. So
Oh, right, yeah.
Where would that leave us on a percentage basis, roughly?
So our stabilization fund is currently doing pretty well. We did earn a lot of investment income in FY20. So basically what we need to apply to meet that 5% minimum is, right, let's figure right here. This is, sorry, scanning very quickly in this document.
It's okay. You can answer it later too if you don't know it offhand.
It's 141,000 that we need from free cash to be earmarked for the 5% minimum. So at a 3.3 million, essentially 3.2 is available.
Okay, great. And the last question is, so where are we with the schools knowing where they're going to be? Because for me, that's the great unknown as it relates to some of these open questions, not only for capital, but also, Jody, in relation to the 2 open positions. There is no question in my mind that I want to fund those 2 open positions. It's not even a doubt. But I don't know if we're really dealing with, 213, whether we're dealing with the million, 213. Like, I really don't know, and I don't know where they are in the whole process.
Jody?
Yeah, so, and I don't know if Dan has something different, but I did talk to Bill Olson last week, and I know we were planning to post for the school committee and the selectmen and finance committee, if you're interested too, on the 22nd. He told me that he did not feel that they needed the 400,000 that we had set aside. But I told him I thought we should have that kind of discussed with all of you so you all understand where they're at for this year. Next fiscal year, of course, we don't know, and we don't know what's going to happen because of COVID. Right now we've got all the federal and state funding available. My guess is if COVID continues that will be extended, but we don't know yet. But so I think we can have that discussion next week. But at this point, I think they're feeling kind of confident where they're at right now. But Dan, do you have any more you want to add on that?
That's what I heard as well. So we do have the CARES Act funds and the additional DESI funds out there for the schools and the town for the CARES Act. And Christina actually asked me a question on Friday, how much have we spent of that money? And for the CARES Act, we put in a reimbursement for 131,000 as of June 30th. So we still have over $2 million available from that. And from the $1,057,000, like they haven't started spending that yet, obviously, because school's still starting up. So we do have about $3 million there to help us on COVID-related expenses.
And the other thing I would add is, if you remember a couple months ago, we came up with some scenarios if we did have drastic reductions in state aid this year, and we had like a 500,000, 1 million, 1.5. We still have those in our back pocket. We've made a little bit of progress towards that through attrition, but those scenarios did not include not funding these 2 positions. So those were other reductions. So.
Other questions or comments? Tom and then Scott.
Well, first, it's great to see something that looks better than I expect. So the summary, the fact that the summary looks like we're doing well on a lot of this is impressive. So thanks, Jody and Dan, for good work there. I guess I also don't want to get too overconfident. I feel like we still have a lot of uncertainty about how long we'll be in this situation, what additional costs will come up, what'll happen if there's a resurge. And so for me, at least, a lot of the organizations I'm part of are sort of still in a wait, even if we're optimistic, still in a wait and hold mode. So when I look at adding any kind of new positions from here, I guess I feel like if you make the trade-off of being ready to respond if things unfortunately get worse, I'd rather be ready for that, even at the cost of delaying some additional investments that we need until things are more stable. So maybe a little bit long-winded, but I guess I'm in most things that I'm involved with now, I'm still in a, let's be optimistic, but let's understand where we are and be a little bit careful about making any new commitments, because there are things that can come up that we won't be able to choose. Things that might happen in the schools or might happen in the town if things get worse. So I guess that's my feeling as we look at the next 6 months.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, so I guess I'm more with Mark on the two positions, in that if we do get a resurgence, the first thing we're going to need is paramedics to respond to that, and police go along with the paramedics. So I think of a spot to be hiring, given our concerns about the future, those are two we should be making the investment in. We decided 3 years ago to do this. Town meeting knew we had COVID as a problem in when they budget in June, and they passed the budget with those 2 minutes. So I'm inclined to say we should move forward with those two positions. But my question, I guess, is on capital, which I guess probably involves Mark. But how do we deferred a lot of items at town meeting? How do we consider whether, if we bring any of them back, and how we prioritize that?
So that's next. We're going to talk about that next, but go ahead, Mark.
Sure. Go right ahead.
So because we just make recommendations to Jody to bring forward to us, actually we exchanged some emails on that earlier. So we have our first Capital Committee meeting a week from Friday. And that's exactly the set of discussions we need to have. As I go through the list of things that we deferred that we originally recommended and then ended up deferring till October, Scott, there's still some things in there that I would put off. I would recommend putting off, and I think the committee needs to kind of have that full dialogue and then bring it back to all of you. Just because of the so what. I know it's, of course, we all know it's different than an operating fund cash, but to me, cash is cash, and I'd rather have more than less. And if there are some things in there that can be deferred for the sake of, preserving the cash for more rainy days, then I'd certainly like to do that. I wouldn't say there's a huge list, but there are some things that I have on my mind that I would say, let's maybe wait till the spring if we possibly can. But I think, Jody, right, we're going to come back at the next meeting and talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think tonight I wanted to just give a high level. I mean, there's a couple of big items I want the selectmen to be thinking about and the finance committee while we meet. So I just wanted to get it on your radar screen, and it is in the warrant because you're closing it tonight. Doesn't mean we can't take it off, but I wanted you to understand what's going on.
So let's just finish the discussion about the budget first, and then we'll move to capital, just so we can do that. In terms of the budget, does anybody from the FinCom have any questions or comments? I don't see any. I would just say that I'm in the Scott and Mark camp in terms of funding the paramedic and the police position. They have been part of our budget. I particularly agreed with you, Scott. If we see a resurgence in COVID, we are going to need, paramedics and firefighters and medical people to be able to respond to that. So assuming that, things do not take a dire change, Tom, and I know we're all concerned about the future and what's going to happen, but assuming that there's not some dire, change and precipice that we all fall off of in the next, months or so, I would be in the camp that we preserve and keep those positions in the budget. With that, why don't we move to capital, Jody, or Mark, or Dan, whomever?
Okay, so capital is the second spreadsheet in your packet. And just quickly, that's not it. Okay, see, they're just checking to see if I'm watching. So anyway, you'll see I'm not going to go through each one, but I'm going to say a couple things that I think I'd like you to at least think about for your next meeting. The 200,000 is the OPEB free cash, which we had said we were going to do. That's above what we already put in the operating. Think about it. That's something we certainly could hold off on. The next list of items is all what we told you in the spring. We were going to defer to the fall. So all those items, starting with the 50,000, traveling down, were all things we told you we would be bringing back. And so capital will discuss it, but you all should be thinking about your own priorities too. When then you get down to the Oak Hill, that is a big project for 8.16 million. That is the total project, not some of it's water, some of it's stormwater, but we were going to do it in the operating budget. I did put a debt schedule in there that Dan and Christine created, but it's something to think about. Maybe we might want to consider going to a debt exclusion on that. I think we put an article in the warrant to allow that, and as we discuss. The 270 below that is the promise the selectmen made to town meeting to put that back after buying 63 Main. But if we're selling 63 Main, maybe you want to hold off and see if we sell that. Just things for you to think about. The next couple of items that Dan has highlighted are actually new requests, the first two. So they will go through capital. They have not yet, but they do include the WA trustee field. So that is going to be discussed with CPC on the 15th. Mark and I are attending that meeting. And so we've actually got that on here as capital, but if you keep going down, you'll see later on it is under CPC, and it was originally in there duplicated in the total, which I asked Dan to take it out today. So if you looked at your old sheets, you see at the bottom that was not in there twice. So then we have the 8.7 million, which is the big 51 main building. And I did meet with Tom Mahana last week. We talked about perhaps the select board would like to have the PTBC back at your next meeting to talk about that a little bit. I mean, that was pre-COVID. We don't know if you still want a 100-person meeting room or if we need to look at those offices and see if they're set up for another pandemic, because things are a little different now than they were. So that would be my recommendation, is we maybe remove that from the warrant and send them back to the drawing board, but that's up to you. And I would suggest you think about whether you want them back on 9/22. So that's it. The Pechlor's in there, but that was in the prior annual town meeting. So that's just kind of the capital, just to give you something to think about, all of you, while we decide how to move forward.
Okay, questions or comments from anyone? Anita?
Yeah, I have a question about the network upgrades and just whether or not that incorporates any COVID needs, like if there's going to be a larger drain on our networks because of remote learning, if that's going to get folded into that at all, or
are you out there, Mike?
I am, yes. Yes, I am. Mike Wells, the IT director. Yes, so I mean, we're going to find out in a couple of weeks, I guess, how the networks get on with this. It's not a usage pattern we had planned for when we designed them, really. However, the thought of 100 people doing live streaming out of Westford Academy isn't, that's probably the biggest pinch point we're going to have. That doesn't scare me too much. There were some other scenarios that were talked about, which were much more scary from that perspective in terms of the total bandwidth. But we will see. I mean, we will find out in a couple of weeks whether we have to put all that towards rectifying that situation somehow. Fortunately, most of these platforms are not running in-house, you know, so for us to have a member of staff in WA working with 30 students online, we only have to deal with the leg that's going from the teacher to the server. The server in the cloud is what's doing the heavy lifting with the 30 connections. So it's not as scary as you might think. What was more scary was the prospect of 1,000 kids in the schools all doing online learning from within the school. But we're not faced with that, luckily. So.
Okay. I would just remind everybody that if it's COVID related, an increase in technology, we can apply for that through the CARES Act.
Yes.
And
Great.
there's also another compact IT grant that we got wind of today that we're going to apply for, 200,000. So, but good question.
Hari, I think I saw your hand up. You had a question?
Yeah, so regarding the Oak Hill project, I know you guys, we are debating between debt exclusion versus capital funding. What parameters will define whether we will go to debt exclusion or not?
That would be the Board of Selectmen's decision in the end. I just wanted people, I know you're not making those decisions tonight, but I wanted it on your radar so you can start thinking about it. So I would say once capital meets, we understand what CPC is doing with the WA bathrooms and capital votes, we will put this back together and hopefully bring it back to you on 9/22 so you can advise us of your comfort levels.
Okay.
Other questions or comments, Mark?
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, Dan, it may be helpful, and Jody, to the ones that haven't been funded yet, just to put where the original funding source was meant to be for these, because the $8.1 million is certainly scary, but a large portion of that was coming out of water enterprise and out of stormwater. And so it's really the balance that, and so I think with all of these, some of these are enterprise funded and really, you know, especially if they're water, don't really have a major impact on whether we move forward or not. So that might be helpful for everybody before we get into the next meeting, just so as they're thinking about it, they know where the funding source was originally meant to be. Because I can't recall, I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
But of the 8.2 million, you know, it wasn't a huge portion that was coming, that was not out of enterprise.
I think it was about 3.4, but yeah, no, good point, Mark. We will do that. We try to make these kind of simple, but I think you're right. That would be very helpful.
Yep.
Other comments or questions? Okay, I don't see, oh, Christina.
Sorry, thanks, Andrea. Jody, maybe this is more of a question for Permanent Town Building Committee if they come back, but the 51 Main Street seemed to go from 8.3 million originally to 8.7.
Dan, do you remember what's up with that number?
I think this was the final estimate we were given right before COVID hit, back in February, I believe.
Okay.
And what I would also say is I don't believe that might be an accurate number right now. I don't believe they ended up getting their final cost estimates. So if it pleases the board, I will have them back at your next meeting to talk about that. But I would just hate to design a building that isn't ready for a pandemic, since, you know, we had to make a lot of retrofits this time. I think I might look at it a little differently.
Right. No, that's probably smart, but just that just sort of caught my eye that there was a difference in the value.
I think that makes sense, Jody, and I certainly think that we should invite the Permanent Town Building Committee to our next meeting. So if you would do that, we'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Dennis?
Just a quick, go back to the operating budget for a second. Can you just identify those two positions you mentioned that you were going to keep? I just want to, I kind of missed that in the conversation.
Okay, so at the very bottom, excuse me one second. At the very bottom of the sheet, you will see what we had. We have this in our existing budget. It was to hire a firefighter paramedic, and that would cost $47,780. I have not hired that person yet. If the board agrees with me moving forward, because these are my two new hires in that budget, I think we can have the firefighter on board in October. The police officer, we had budgeted for a half a year because of, the budget situation. I couldn't fit it in the full year. So if the board is supporting me hiring that police officer too, that takes several months. So we would get going now on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. So I guess we're going to move on to talk about a special town meeting.
Well, actually, do you want to vote on the position?
You want a motion on those two?
I think so. That would be nice.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to continue to support the firefighter paramedic position and the starting October 1st at the earliest, and the filling of the patrol officer on January 1st, consistent with our budget and with the Public Safety Task Force's recommendation.
There a second? Any further discussion among the select board? Seeing none. Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So then just
you.
before we move to the warrant, we do have a debt schedule in there for you to look at, those of you who are interested in that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. So then the next item you do have, Andrea, we put in the warrant. I think we updated it slightly today. It's the current warrant up there. I don't know how you want to go through it.
Well, why don't we just on a very high level, without, we're not obviously discussing substantively any of the warrant articles tonight. Just run through the warrant and what the articles are. I think by my count, we have 29 articles in one resolution, or has that changed since I looked at it at 2 o'clock this afternoon?
Nope, that's correct. And, a couple of these will probably come off the final word. Remember, you're closing it to new articles. You can take articles off at the upcoming meetings. And I think you will sign it at your next meeting. So we're kind of condensed for time. But first one's unpaid bills. So Article 1, we don't have any, which is good. The second is...
Can I interrupt just for a second, just
Sure.
as you're going through this, Andrew, if you don't mind. So do we have a schedule, or do you have planned when some of these would come before us between now and special town meeting, Jody? Just so, because everybody should know that we do review these between now and special town meeting.
So Mark, Jody and I haven't set the schedule yet for when we review them. Part of it depends upon when things are ready for review, i.e. capital requests, for example. And some of them hopefully will be, fairly straightforward, and that we can group a bunch of them, and get a bunch of them done even at our next meeting. But we will certainly give the proponents of the articles that we are discussing at our meetings fair notice and warning so that they know they're being discussed.
Thank you.
You don't have a lot of time, so it may be you might want to hold one extra meeting in there, but anyway, so I'll move forward. So I already talked about Article 1. Article 2 is budget adjustments, which we will have some. Article 3 is budget transfers. Right now, we do not have any. Article 4 is Pecloret, which we funded half of it at the annual, if you remember. 5 will be capital, and in this warrant, it does include all the capital I think Dan added the new requests. Dan, did you do that today?
No, they're not in there yet because I don't have all the quotes. So
Okay, so you're approving a capital article, but it's not done and will change. Article 6 is the 51 Main, which you can tell us next week whether you want to move forward or remove that. Article 7 is not necessary. We're talking about that a little later to you. We thought we needed a town meeting vote. We don't, so we would propose to remove this. Article 8 is where we
Jody, can I
balance.
interrupt you for a minute?
Mhm.
Since we haven't closed the warrant, can we remove that now before
Yes.
we get to town meeting? Okay, good.
Yep. I just didn't want to remove it until you told me
Okay.
to.
Thank you.
So then Article 8 is where we balance our budget. 9 is CPC. As I mentioned, they are meeting on the 15th to discuss the WA and whether they're going to bring that back, the WA bathrooms. 10 is to accept easements on Oak Hill, Plain, and more. 11 is to accept easements on Carlisle Road, which is a sidewalk you discussed last week. Article 12 is the Beaver Brook Bridge reconstruction project. Article 13 is a citizen petition continued from the annual, which is the Indigenous Peoples Day. 14 is another citizen petition, which was petitioning for an all alcohol on the premises license at 478 Groton Road. That's a continuation of last annual. Article 15 is the clarification citizen petition of the WCAT, and they did not say they didn't want to move forward. So Tom, I don't know if you know about that or not, but at this point it's still on here. Article 16, I believe Dan changed this to say resolution. It is a resolution, and I think the earlier warrant today said commitment, but it is a resolution, so we wanted to make that clear. We got that in today, well over 100 signatures, I'm told. 17 is, it actually says Board of Selectmen, but it is a town clerk request that I do support, which would be to shorten the polling hours for certain elections. And of course, Patty will discuss that with you. 18 is a placeholder. This was something we talked about a little bit. Some of you think it might be better to move the annual town meeting to May. You don't need to do it through a bylaw change. You actually can delay it yourselves if you choose to, but we gave you a placeholder if you want to make it permanent. So you haven't really discussed that yet. 19 is something that I suggested. I know we have some people who have experienced some blasting issues, and I was hoping maybe we had a bylaw for you all to talk about. I don't know if we can get this ready in time, but I am communicating with the residents and we'll do the best we can. If not, we could defer it to the annual. 20 is our inclusive language, which Andrea and I sent a letter to Senator Kennedy asking to please pass this through for us, but it's still here. The charter language should be approved first, but then we get into our zoning bylaw amendments. I don't know if there's any questions tonight, if Jeff or Rebecca are out there, but we're trying to clarify in 21 the minimum lot frontage requirements. In 22, we're trying to extend the time for lapse of special permits from 2 to 3 years. 23, we're trying to clarify area stands for accessory dwelling units. 24, we were trying to amend or regulate massage establishments. If you remember, we talked about that last spring. 25 was to amend the section 6.3 growth management, which expired May 11th. 26 is to regulate short-term rentals.
May 11th, 2009, Jody, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, 2009. I missed that. 26 is to define and regulate short-term rentals and to establish a summer village short-term rental overlay. And 27 was, I believe, my recollection, in case that failed, we had something else in place. And 28 is a new one for drive-through for restaurants, which I think we need to say that title a little better. We'll work on that, but we're trying to amend our zoning bylaws to allow drive-throughs. And 29 is a citizen petition continued for disposition of 63 Main. And that is it. We got a lot of work to do.
There's one more at the end, Jody, Article 30.
Jody, there's Article 30, home rule petition regarding Rome Drive extension.
Oops, you're right. Didn't turn the page. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, there's a lot of work we're going to have to do at special town meeting. Okay, with that, I think we just need to discuss the order of the warrant, if there are any questions or concerns about that, and then we can move to close the warrant. I know our new town moderator, Angela Harkness, is out there, and I guess, Angela, if you have any comments about the warrant or about the order, if you'd let us know, we'd appreciate it. So Eric, you need to unmute her.
All set.
Angela, you need to unmute. Okay.
Okay, I'll let you know if I have any questions.
Okay. Are you good with the order?
So far.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I need a motion to close the warrant.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Hi.
Anita?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
And I. Okay. All right, so I think, anything else for special town meeting, Jody, at this time?
No, I'm just hoping the nice weather continues.
Yes, a day like we had over the weekend would be lovely. Perhaps we could put our order in now. All right, so thank you all very much, and we can move on to our 8:10 item, which is an update on the COVID-19 situation and impacts on town operations during this period. So I think the first item is the recreational department's Westford Partnership for Children, and an update on that. Hi, Jim.
Hello. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
I'm sorry, the light is shining on my rapidly balding and more balding head and reflecting poorly. I apologize.
I understand, Jim. I understand.
Mark, Scott, Tom, I'm a little jealous, all of you. So, Jody, I don't know if there's something you want to say to set the stage for the overall conversation, or if you just want me to jump in.
I would just say that Jim has been working incredibly hard along with his staff, and it's a changing, every day is a change, but no, you present, Jim.
Okay. So my computer has been lagging, and I don't know if that's on the town's server end or my personal end, so I apologize. I'll try to pause every so often so you guys can hear. Am I clear?
Yep.
Okay. It's about the best I can do. If you want me to call in, I can do that.
We'll manage.
All right. So at the risk of boring you all with more details, I did provide a memo that I feel like included a pretty good roundup of where we're at. I would say that I want to stress that I've had several ongoing conversations with Bill Olson and other school leadership. Bill's been very helpful with Jody and other town leadership, as well as with Jeff Stevens at the health department. And those conversations are ongoing right up to, new information that's coming out 4 minutes before the end of the day today. But we're doing well. We're making good progress. I think the highlights of our upcoming proposed program are it will run at the Millennium Building. rather than in the school buildings. And I want to call people's attention to that because typically our program runs in the school buildings. We are looking at serving the students during the week that they are in their half-day in-school program. So we would have Pod A students for a week during their half-days, and then we would have Pod B students the following week during their half-days. The program would run Monday through Friday, roughly noon to 5:30. Bill Olson has confirmed for me that we will have bus transportation from the school buildings to the Millennium Building, which I think is a key component of this program. And we've really done an analysis of the cost of the program and trying to balance the service need with something that's financially responsible to the parents and the town. At roughly $50 a day for the program, it puts us slightly above break even. And I can tell by the way you guys are all lagging that that's probably very cut up and not understandable.
No, I think we all understood.
Okay.
Okay. Questions or
And with
comments?
that, I just wanted to open up a comments. I want to be considerate of your time. I know you've got a packed agenda.
Mark.
Yeah, so first of all, Jim, thanks so much for, I think we probably all don't know as much as Dan and Jody do how hard you're working, but I have a sense of what it must be like to deal with changes every second of every day. So just know that it's appreciated by all of us. The other part I just want to understand is, did I read it right that you were maxed out at 60-ish per day?
So yes, so typically our program runs in the school buildings and we have access to cafeterias and gymnasiums and whatnot. With the COVID, there are very specific guidelines for indoor activities related to square footage and social distancing and whatnot. And in order for us to align our program with those requirements and what the school's doing, we have 5 rooms at the Millennium Building, and those 5 rooms can accommodate about 12 students in each room. We may be able to get 1 or 2 more than that, but I don't think opening and being at max capacity is the best interest of the program or the students. I think we have some learning to do as we transition from a very successful outdoor program over the summer to an indoor program. It's a different operating environment, obviously, literally and figuratively. So we're looking at about 60 students a week, which, you know, depending on how you look at it, we can serve 120 kids, but we can only serve 60 each week. So the scope of the community that we can serve is roughly 120, but that would be 60 a week at varying grade levels, you know, roughly 24 for grades 1 to 2, 24 for grades 3 through 5, and 12 for grades 6 through 8.
Yeah, and my last question just is, so is it first come, first serve? Is that how this works?
We would have to do it as a first come, first serve. We've talked through a lot of different registration scenarios, and every single scenario we talk about, as soon as you answer one question, it creates 10 more questions. And I think the most straightforward way for us to do this is to get the feedback of the board tonight, make sure that we can overcome some of the remaining challenges that we're still facing, and then, you know, go out to with an email blast posted on the town's website and our department specific websites, just to let people know that we're going to open our registration at a certain time, and the registration would be conducted via online registration, and it would be first come, first serve.
Okay, and then, sorry, my last comment then just is, as it relates to first come, first serve, is just maybe whether you want to give any consideration to doing it by, you know, by grade structures. So it's, you know, if you've got it open to, I can't remember what grade level you had it open till, but I don't know if that makes sense. I'm no expert in the area. I was just thinking out loud, but thank you for all of that.
Just to clarify, Mark, and I don't know if it answers your question, but we would be first come, first serve, and we have very specific age groupings. So grades 1 and 2 would be first come, first serve for those available slots. Grades 3 through 5 would be first come, first serve for those slots, and so on.
Tom, did you have a question or a comment?
I did, and I think it's much in line with one of the community members watching. So thank you for doing this. I understand you're facing a lot of constraints and need to be healthy and safe. I'm wondering if there's any survey data that you or the schools have that would tell us what % of the parent need this serves. I know that's a tough question, and I'm sure there are more people that want this service than we can provide, but do we have anything from the schools that would suggest this covers 10% of the need or 50% of the need?
I can't speak for the schools. I can tell you that based on a typical program year for us, it's 300 plus students that we serve, probably somewhere between 350 and 400 students when you think of some come on and some go off over the course of the year. So but there have been ongoing conversations with other community partners that will be stepping into that space to help fill some of that need.
And the primary constraint is just available classroom space. It's that through the accommodation with the schools, it's those 5 rooms at Millennium, and that's what you're working with.
So
it's a combination of factors. One is the space available to us, and the other is I'm sorry. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, Jim, you said it's a combination of the space available, and then we lost the last half of your sentence.
And staff available.
Okay.
So we have a defined program staff, and we can only staff so many rooms. Even if they gave us 20 rooms, we wouldn't be able to ramp that up and scale it in the time available.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Anita?
Yeah, I really am excited about the offering of the programs. I know I feel like there is a really hunger in the community for programs like this. But a question, and I don't want to rehash or recreate a conversation that happens on the school committee side, but I know that lunch was kind of like an issue with going from half day for schools to like full day. Lunch was like a big barrier. And I'm just wondering if you've already worked through any lunch concerns in terms of like COVID. I don't know if we need to talk about here, but I just wanted to make sure it's getting worked out with health department and stuff.
Yes, we are in close communication with the health department. As far as the lunch is concerned, you're right, I can't speak for the schools, but what I can say is with the scope of the program that we're providing and the staffing ratios that we would have in the room, we will have a different dynamic and a much reduced number of students in a room to manage for a lunch break. And I think that makes it easier for us to manage it. We're talking about 60 kids, not hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
And we are aware of it and we are working on it. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. So I guess the issue before us now is whether we will support implementation of this modified Westford Partnership for Children program as presented by Jim tonight.
Sorry, I was just in the middle of a race. Let me just finish.
Could you mute it? I mean, really, Mark, you know? Jim.
I'm sorry to prolong this, but I do want to stress that, first of all, I want to give kudos to the people on the school side and the people on the town side and my staff who you've all acknowledged it, but the amount of work that these people are putting in to get us to where we're going, if we get there, is amazing. Mike Wells among them. So Mike, thank you. And then I do want to identify that there are still some outstanding challenges that we need to address and overcome related to potential licensing requirements that came up at the end of the day today. The anticipated start date, we're trying to hit the start of school, but we just may not have enough time to implement before school starts. And above all else, safety and quality is primary to me over hitting a date. We learned a lot with the summer program this year, and I think we can transition that to this, but we've got to do it the right way.
Jody?
I think Jim might have said this, but we might not have heard him, but the Rec Commission also weighed in and they fully support this. So thank you to them too for all their efforts.
Definitely. Thank
Thank
you
you,
to
Debbie.
everybody who's worked so hard on this and these trying circumstances to try, to provide some sort of aftercare for our families and for our children. We recognize it's not ideal, but we're trying to do the best we can in these times and circumstances. So thank you to everyone. Mark?
Yeah, so if you need a motion, I'll make a motion to support the Westford Partnership for Children program that Jim has laid out, recognizing that as things change and move and adjust, that he may need to come back to us for some input, but that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. No further discussion. All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Again, thank you, Jim. Appreciate all your hard work and your staff's hard work and everybody else who has contributed to this.
The continued support on our end by you guys is much appreciated too. So, that doesn't go unnoticed either. So thank you.
All right. Have a good night. Okay, we are at old and new business. Reconsider the pilot agreement relative to the Helena Crocker Residences, an 18-unit senior affordable rental housing development located at 60 Littleton Road, which was previously approved on 6/23/20 as it is not subject to town meeting approval. So Jody, you want to just update us on this?
Really, it's just we learned that it does not require town meeting, so I didn't want to just remove that from the agreement. So I'm asking you to revote that with just that change, and the assessors should also be signing it. So that's really it.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we have our consent agenda, but I want to separate out the items on the consent agenda, particularly because two of them are have to do with Witches Woods, and I believe that we have comments, and I know that the board had questions about it last time, so I suspect that we may still have some questions. So I want to take those off the consent agenda to be able to discuss them separately. And that leaves two events on the consent agenda. The first is a request to approve the use of the town common and bandstand for an event called the Great Awakening Save Our Children Rally. The applicant is Erin McConnell. The date is Saturday, September 19th, 2020, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. And then the other one is a request for a banner for the special town meeting. The applicant is Lynn Cohen on behalf of the League of Women Voters. The dates are Saturday, October 10th, 2020 to Tuesday, October 20th, 2020 in front of the First Parish Church. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Somebody?
So friendly amendment, if possible, just subject to public
Subject to-
safety.
Yeah, public safety, absolutely. Okay, all those in favor? Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now let's go to Witches Woods and their request for it's a request by Neshoba Valley Ski Area for a general license. The dates are October 1 through 3, 8 through 10, 15 through 17, 22 through 24, 29 through 31 from 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. and also a public entertainment license, public entertainment on Sunday license, again, by Neshoba Valley Ski Area. Both of these located at Neshoba Valley Ski Area, and the Sunday license is for October 4, 11, 18, and 25. So I know that we all had questions about this at our last meeting. We have received comments from both the police, the health department, and I believe the building inspector. So are there other comments or questions from the board? Nope, seeing none. Okay. All right, then is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
I'm voting aye, but I would like to say to the health department, I really expect that they monitor this very closely, that if there are any problems, if there are any violations of the state regulations and the health regulations, that this event be shut down. You know, I think it is important that we recognize the environment that this is happening in, and I expect everybody involved, including the applicant and the participants in Witches Woods, to comply to the letter and to the T with the state and our health department rules and regulations. And if they don't, there will be consequences, you know, to be perfectly blunt about it. So. All right. Minutes for approval. We have minutes for approval and for release from our January 12th, 2016 executive session meeting. Is there a motion to approve and release?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any board reports or updates? Okay. Seeing none. Town managers report.
So I wanted to advise you all tonight. I think we might maybe mention it at the beginning, but we did have a request from a resident seeking some community access real-time, which is CART, translation services. And that is available upon request in advance for public meetings. It does cost about $125 an hour. So there is an associated cost, and we are going to apply for the CARES Act funding for reimbursement for this. So it's kind of fascinating. I've been watching it a little bit tonight. And how you access it is on the agenda. Secondly, I wanted to announce that we did receive another Massachusetts Green Communities grant, which is excellent. I'd like you all to vote to accept it. A big thank you to Paul Fox and Eric who put this together, and it is for 3 energy efficiency projects at Westford schools. I have a request for you to approve the following contracts: BSC Group, Inc. for final design and bidding documents for the new grave section at the Pine Grove Cemetery in the amount of $25,300. Stantec Consulting for landfill monitoring services in the amount of $12,265. And Blue Cross Blue Shield for health insurance at a 4.9% premium increase for town employees and 11.9% decrease in Medicare for retirees pending prescription drug. And I'm turning the page. So I have purchase orders, Presidio for phase 3 of the municipal phone system upgrade, the amount of $132,457.01. requested by the Tech Department. Merrimack Valley Emergency Physicians for Medical Direction Services, which is Dr. Drake, at Lowell General at $18,000 for the fire department.
Jody, I think you skipped one. Request to vote and execute the bond and anticipation notes.
Oh. Yeah, I did skip that. Yes, I'm sorry. That's a big one. And you have to sign those tomorrow too. All right, I was doing so good. Request to vote. Right, you said it. I don't have to say it. In the amount of $5,764,76.
Mark?
Yeah, so I have no issue with any of them. Jody, I don't know how much you want to go into the health insurance element, and but I kind of felt like, first of all, I just want to say thank you to you for the work that you did with the insurance committee on looking at the various options. Having spent some time with you on this whole issue, I kind of feel like we need to have the discussion about our broker. I'm a little disappointed based on some of the questions I had asked and the kind of responses I gotten. And so as we think about going forward, I think we need to have a discussion about how that went this year, and whether we need to do an RFP for someone else next year. But I think we need it as a broader discussion.
Yes, so just to recap, we did go out with an RFP 2.5 years ago, and we hired Kate Sherry from Benefit Strategies. Gallagher was one of the people that put in a proposal, but we did not choose Gallagher. But then Gallagher bought Kate's company. So then Gallagher became our broker. And we did ask you to not pay the administrative fee, which saved us $36,000. But it is my intention to go out with an RFP. I actually talked about it in June, July, but I did not want to mess up this renewal, and it's a big process. So I do plan to go out this fall after we've got everybody situated and do an RFP. We will bring that to the Board of Selectmen. I just think it was a little difficult to get the information at the level I wanted for us to evaluate. And I think the IAC, the Insurance Advisory Committee, and the Public Employee Committee, who also helped go through all this. We had a lot of questions. I did bring to all of you, we did talk about going to a joint purchase group, but I really was not comfortable with the drastic changes that would entail to save some money. And I think we need to take several months to look at that in the future, maybe in the future. But anyway, so you will be seeing an RFP. We will evaluate it, but I think we're in a good place. Blue Cross did come down a little bit lower after I negotiated with them again. And I think our employees are happy. And I think I failed to say it was a unanimous vote by the IAC to support sticking with Blue Cross. So thank you, Mark.
Okay, I think, Scott?
I was gonna say, can we just one motion, or do we need to have 3 motions? We've got the gift, we've got the ban, we've got.
Let's do it all. Prove everything I asked for.
Okay. The motion, I guess, so yes to Jody, but.
At least everything she asked for in this agenda item tonight.
So I would make a motion to approve the gift, the ban notes, and the contracts and POs.
Is there a second?
I like it.
All those in favor? Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And so just a reminder, I need 3 of you to sign these no later than tomorrow, or we will find you.
So who has
Christine
gone in already?
Collins has it. Can I get a commitment from 3 of you?
I'll be there.
Came today already.
Oh, good.
I was the first.
Oh, all right. So we just need 1 more. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Great.
you, Scott. Thank you.
Before we get to our last items, I do need to respond to a couple of comments that we have received about our approval of the Great Awakening Save Our Children rally. I need to make clear that by approving this request, it does not indicate the Board of Selectmen's support of the group or what it may stand for that matter, whenever we approve any use of the common, whether we support it or not. I think people need to remember that the common is a public area, and under First Amendment, we have no grounds to deny any group use of the common. And so that is the basis for our approval, not only of this, but basically every request that comes to us for use of the common. So I just wanted to make that statement in response to some comments that we have received. All right. With that, I believe we are at correspondence. Is there a motion to waive correspondence?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Just raise your hands. Good enough. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening, everybody. Good night, Westford, and everybody stay safe.
Good night.
Peace out.